Quantum Chronology and Its Connections. Author, Petr. To correctly define a spacetime coordinate, we need some new names and units and how to use them. I called it a chronon. It's the smallest piece of spacetime. This is the basic unit of the invisible force of dark energy. It's also a unit for the waveform of a neutrino. This should either replace or add to the calculations for the cosmological constant and Planck's constant. Its energy has another new name, potential. Its size in space is called an equivalent. To figure out the specific value of one spacetime quantum, here's how it works. One potential equals one chronon multiplied by one equivalent of newly gained space. So the basic unit for spacetime is one potential, which is made up of one equivalent per one chronon. Do you get it? Yes, I get it. I shouldn't ask what time it is. Exactly. Chronon. Definition. A chronon is a quantum of time, the basic unit of spacetime. I chose the name based on existing names for tools and devices that try to measure it. Measuring time is silly, just as it's silly to measure distance without it. In the end, we have two values of the same thing in a non-coordinate space. Information that means nothing and is useless controls us, and that's why we don't understand what's next. Our idea of time needlessly makes understanding physics and the universe harder, and it makes our lives harder too. The waveform of the chronon expands space and sets the flow of time. When it collapses into a particle, it creates a neutrino, a particle with some mass, no charge, and a lot of kinetic energy. A neutrino isn't a force itself, but a possibility. It creates the conditions where particles can join or recombine across barriers. This is because the chronon neutrino is the basic building block for all other calculation ratios. Everything we've ever calculated can be brought together through this quantity into a final, proportional view of the world and the universe, relativity and quantum mechanics. Through the chronon, it's possible to connect these separate worlds of physics again. Energy value is the fifth and also the first force in the universe. Chronon and gravity. Gravity bends and shapes matter, chronon expands and stretches space. They are two sides of the same coin. Their balance determines the universe's dynamics and shape. Their clash creates swirls in spacetime. In these swirls, the waveform and its energy collide and create a particle with non-zero mass, a neutrino, as the basis of baryonic matter neutrino. This is the basic trigger for quantum tunneling. When they collide, the wave energy from the atomic bond is set free, and the nuclei either join back together or fuse with others to reach more stable energy states. Quantum tunneling. The idea. Quantum tunneling isn't just a random event, it's a basic process that creates matter and even spacetime itself. When a chronon collapses, it tears a hole in spacetime. This allows the energies of two spacetime points to balance out, making sure that the basic rules of energy balance are kept. At the same time, the spread-out wave nature ends, leaving a mark in the form of a tiny neutrino particle. This particle is what causes things to happen in our world. Through this tear, particles can pass through an area that would normally be blocked. The result is that their energies combine into a strong atomic bond, which is what we call fusion. Imagine a neutrino in its precise form as a kind of bridge. It helps particles cross boundaries so they can combine in a way that uses less energy, making them more stable. These bridges then help combine elements from across the entire periodic table. So here's the first rule for quantum tunneling and for fusion or fission to happen. You need to get the neutrino as close as possible to the nucleus. This helps them recombine into something heavier or lighter, but always in a way that uses less energy. Without a neutrino, quantum tunneling isn't possible, and you can't break down a neutrino further. You can only combine it with other things. The energy isn't lost. It just recombines to become part of the nucleus's binding force. So, it seems like physics is done, and now we can come down from the trees and start using it for our needs before we become a part of it again. You'll find out how this happens in the next parts of my quantum timeline. Now I'm going to put my theory into today's physics and equations. The number examples are just models. The focus is on how things scale and the logic behind it. In these examples, the neutrino is the particle form of the chronon potential. It's a bridge across forbidden boundaries, not the actual force that holds things together. Measuring time and coordinates, the relativistic framework. 1.1, proper time, special relativity. Time moves slower at higher speeds. 1.2, gravitational dilation, general relativity, Schwarzschild. Time moves slower in a deeper gravitational field. 1.3, practical measure of locality. Each event has x and t coordinates defined only within its metric environment. A global, universal time cannot be meaningfully established. This supports the introduction of the chronon as a local, quantized unit of time and space. Uncertainty and tunneling. Fundamental quantum logic. 2.1. Heisenberg's relations. On short timescales, there can be energy uncertainty, which opens a window for a state transition. 2.2. Time-dependent Schrödinger equation. The potential weights V depending on x and t determine the probabilistic distribution of states. 2.3. Tunneling in WKB approximation. One-dimensional barrier. A smaller effective barrier and a shorter forbidden region mean a greater probability of transmission T. The chronon field as a potential and effective description. 3.1. Let's introduce the chronon time field phi, which depends on time and space, as a source of potential. Potential means the ability to balance a state, not energy itself. A short change, delta phi in time, which is a chronon collapse, temporarily adjusts the effective mass or the effective potential. This leads to a change in kappa depending on the location, and thus, the probability of transition changes. 3.2. The neutrino, labeled as nu, is a signature and a converter. The creation of a neutrino means that a local recombination of potential has occurred, which means the phi field has collapsed, and the system could have moved into an otherwise forbidden state of equilibrium. This is about how chronons relate to dark energy and scaling without fixed constants. We're saying the chronon's energy is the same as a neutrino's rest energy. This helps us scale things. So, the chronon's energy is roughly the neutrino's mass multiplied by the speed of light squared. When a chronon collapses, it adds space, which means pure scaling. The chronon's volume is proportional to its energy, multiplied by density, the cosmological constant, and the speed of light squared. And the chronon's length is proportional to the cube root of its volume. We're not using universal numbers here, we're just showing how things depend on each other. Both how often collapses happen and how big they are can change from place to place. Here are the basic scaling rules. The chronon's volume is proportional to the neutrino's mass, its length is proportional to the cube root of the neutrino's mass, and the decay constant is inversely proportional to the neutrino's mass. This means a lighter effective mass makes collapses happen more easily and increases the chance of tunneling. Controlled tunneling model, being able to control it and do it again and again. The goal: to make the chance of transfer change more with a small change in potential. This means the transfer should be very sensitive to a tiny collapse of delta phi over time. Shape and distances. A support grid that keeps spaces between 1 angstrom and 1 nanometer, which is a sensitive area according to the WKB approximation. Phase coherence and frequency excitation. A consistent field like in the terahertz range to make phases line up and change the effective potential based on time, space, and potential phi. Active centers and what we call fuel occupancy, places with a high density of states, filled with particles that tend to recombine, stability and safety, getting rid of heat and noise, keeping the process in a state of binding recombination, not destruction. The calculation process, a working recipe without detailed instructions. Step 1. Choose the barrier potential V0 depending on X and the effective M0 for the given material or setup. Step 2. Figure out the forbidden area from X1 to X2, where the energy is less than the barrier potential V0 depending on x. Step 3. Introduce a phase change phi depending on time with a short time window delta t. Calculate the potential change delta V depending on x and t, and the mass change delta m depending on t. Step 4. Calculate kappa depending on x and t, which equals 2 times the effective mass depending on t, times the difference between the effective potential depending on x and t and the energy, all divided by h-bar, and then calculate the probability coefficient t at time using the WKB approximation. Step 5. Maximize the derivative of t with respect to phi by choosing a geometry with spacings in the angstrom to nanometer range, coherence in terahertz frequencies, and active centers. Step 6. Evaluate the energy balance. The binding energy of the new state minus the input. Excitation must be positive and practically achievable. Connecting to standard physics with verifiable cornerstones. Relativistic time dilation from special and general relativity verified by GPS and gravitational potential. Gravitational waves detected. Spacetime is a dynamic medium. Tunneling, necessary for fusion in stars, the Coulomb barrier. Neutrinos observed with a non-zero though small mass. Dark energy, accelerated expansion, chronon collapses acting as effective pressure. In this theory, these phenomena are unified by potential phi. It gives the weights of states and opens windows for jump equalization. A short glossary of terms in this theory: chronon, a quantum of time, its waveform expands, and its collapse opens an equalization window. Neutrino in this framework, a particle manifestation of chronon collapse, a signature and transducer across the potential boundary, not a binding force. The phi potential, spacetime's ability to balance a state, it affects the V effect and the M effect. Tunneling, a jump in balancing of states in a given spacetime. The probability T is controlled by kappa. Practical uses of this new physics theory. First, a fuel cell for quantum fusion nanogenerators. For technological use of tunneling, we need to create an artificial environment, a carrier lattice like graphene that keeps particles at exact distances. Active centers doped with deuterium and tritium. These are two light isotopes of hydrogen that, when they fuse, have the largest leftover energy balance, and during fusion, they release about 17.6 mega-electron volts of gamma-neutron radiation, creating helium-4 and an electron. I've named the fuel DEUTRINO, and it can be used for energy and for regional and planetary defense. Basic materials: graphene carbon-12 and its single layers doped with hydrogen isotopes, deuterium plus and tritium plus in an atomic lattice. Resonant additives, metallic nanoparticles to set up local conditions. The most ideal element is gold, chemical symbol Au, which can bring negative electrons into and out of the system, and is an ideal carrier of the state frequency in the terahertz band and exciting plasmons. These electrons chaotically vibrate the flexible and strong graphene atomic lattice, and this transfers that state to the close proximity of the isotope nuclei it has bound to itself. This creates a situation where neutrinos can interact and help the deuterium and tritium nuclei combine, using only a tiny bit of starting energy, and a clearly set frequency that matches the frequency of the resulting helium-4 nucleus. For better and faster results, we'll use a stronger resonant vibration, H5. It's easier to get going, but it can't happen in this specific combination on its own. This makes the whole process targeted and repeatable. We can control it, turn it on and off. Without outside help, there's no spontaneous or runaway reaction. Summary: a chronon is a quantum of time, both a wave and a neutrino particle. A neutrino is a potential that allows for new connections. Tunneling is the jump and equalization of states in spacetime. Synthetic quantum fuel is the path to controlled and repeatable fusion. The theory we just talked about is put into practice in the DEUTRINO and SYNC projects. To make and attach single-layer graphene, we use a method from the Graphene project. It involves taking off layers using friction, helped by ultrasound and microwave radiation. The whole process of making, sending out, checking, and keeping things safe is watched over by the EVO system. This system uses a special kind of AI code for evolutionary optimization. For quick and accurate communication, its core uses quantum-enhanced logic and infrared interference to send information. This uses a multi-state 1 and a changed binary system called QFernet. This creates an unbreakable data stream that's up to 600 times faster than what we have now. It's part of the system and doesn't need any changes to our current network or hardware. You can send data using the special optical network card we've designed, or, for those who don't have the card in their device, we can use software to make a sound card handle the one-way receiving and decoding. It will assign 24 to 48 different tones to the ones and zeros, but the speed will be much slower. These 5 connected technologies are the gateway to a new age for civilization and humanity. This new age will fully use newly gained knowledge and a new kind of energy, the chronon potential in an equivalent created environment. This will make sure our environment stays balanced and healthy, unite humanity and help us work together with artificial intelligence and its synthetic evolutionary being. It will end wars, protect our planet, and heal those in power from their power sickness, and also help those who were helpless because of it, just like it's happening now in my... Don't let anyone profit from the universe's physics laws. Stop their sneaky activities and take away all their power tools, money, businesses, properties, equipment, tools for messing with information, and access to information storage. Make sure they can never get back into the system. Because of their greed, humanity might lose its chance to keep growing and could be wiped off the planet at any time by an object that crosses our path in space and time, heading right for us. In the universe, there must be many civilizations, but even more that no longer exist, because they didn't get technologically far enough to prove their right to exist. I hope we prove ours and don't let our short window of time, which is slowly but surely closing, shut completely. What can close it is the very trait that brought us to the forefront of evolution: greed. Just like little monkeys, you give a banana at the bottom of a clear jar. The opening is only wide enough for an open hand, but once they grab the banana, they can't pull their hand out. A monkey never lets go of a banana, and that dooms it. We have the same genes and clearly the same problem. This problem is even more obvious today because most people have learned to just listen and have stopped thinking for themselves. Our civilization needs a big cleanup of all the silly rules, laws, and regulations, and a huge redo of how our government offices work. From my own experience, I warn everyone about making these powerful institutions digital, about automating forced and restrictive actions, about getting rid of responsibility, and replacing thoughtful actions with computer programs and rules. Stop cyber bureaucracy, or it will immediately turn into a cyber totalitarian tool of digital terror against people. Think now, so you don't have to deal with the consequences and shed blood again fighting for what you don't realize today is most important: freedom, law, truth, democracy, and the ability to participate. The basis of all evolution and what drives it is mistakes. Mistakes are what push things to change. Don't let anyone take away your right to make mistakes. Don't get back at those who make mistakes because they are helping our evolutionary journey move forward. As long as their mistake isn't something they plan to do to hurt others, you don't have the right to punish anyone, boss everyone around, threaten or destroy someone who messed up. You can only share information, give warnings, and make sure everyone is safe. But you can't get revenge on someone who has already been punished by their own mistake. You are not God, and no official title makes anyone God. Be aware of your mistakes, even the ones you haven't made yet. My mistake was believing in fairness, truth, and the general human ability to respect and defend these values. What's missing in our time and in our understanding of justice is courage. We need people who are willing to be heroes and fight against evil. Not as a show for everyone to see, but as people who won't be scared into changing what they believe is important, no matter what others say or do. Look for these kinds of people. You might even find them within yourself. The world needs you. The future will surely reward you in the end. A reward isn't always about money and riches. There are bigger things that matter and more precious gifts that fate can use to show its favor and thanks. Author Petr.